Hey, welcome back to our program. You may think that the NFL, the National Football League's policy on abuse, particularly with your spouse, your wife, may be bad. You ain't seen nothing compared to what's happening in the federal court system, how dysfunctional the federal court system oversight is with the very same issue. Now, we've heard for weeks this whole terrible abuse situation involving Ray Rice, the fact that he's a great $20 million a year player for the Baltimore Ravens, great star who we then saw physically hit his wife, knock her out. I mean, with a sucker punch that would be the envy of most heavyweight boxers. He hit it so darn hard. She falls to the ground. He drags her out of the elevator. It's a horrible situation of which he should be prosecuted. He should serve time in jail for that assault. No doubt about that. Now we've got Adrian Peterson, the great running back for the Minnesota Vikings. He's involved with child abuse, not only once but twice with two different children. He could be well out of football. And the NFL has come under great criticism for kind of dallying on that whole issue, not really taking a very strong stand like many people, including me, think they should. Let me tell you something that's much more grievous. There's a federal judge in Alabama. I think he's on the federal court in Montgomery, Alabama. And he has been accused of terrible domestic abuse. His name is Mark Fuller, federal judge Mark Fuller. He was a DA who had very questionable qualifications to be a federal judge in the first place. Didn't have any federal judge experience. Was a very, very controversial DA. A lot of people think he was extremely unfair in his prosecution of Don Siegelman, the governor of Alabama, who's now in a federal prison in Louisiana. Did some very questionable things in terms of the evidence he used, covering up evidence, his ties to the Republican Party. Just the whole thing stunk in terms of his being the prosecutor. Now he's on the federal bench, and he sentences Siegelman to so many years in jail. Here's a judge, and here's what he does in court. Siegelman is convicted of a very questionable charge where there's been over 100 former U.S. attorneys and prosecutors and attorney generals saying it was wrong. He immediately has him handcuffed and dragged out of the courtroom. This guy is absolute scum. Put it down. Federal Judge Mark Fuller is absolute scum. So he goes to Atlanta in a hotel room, and he starts beating up his wife. Now, this is not hearsay. Let me read to you the 911 call that his wife makes in desperation as she's being beaten to a bloody pulp. This is a federal judge. The guy, he leaves bruises all over her face, her legs, blood all over the place in the hotel bathroom. And here's the report of the 911 call from his wife. She says, "Help me, please, please help me. He's beating on me, help me." She's begging for help from her husband, a federal judge. Beats her to a pulp. And so then you get into the record, and this is not the first time with his first wife. She brings allegations of drug abuse, infidelity, and the fact that he physically abused her. It happened before. The guy's on the federal bench. Should not be on the federal bench, appointed there by George Bush, past President George Bush. Here's what retired senior judge of that circuit, George Koff, says. He says, Judge Fuller got a sweet deal. What he did, they put him in a diversion program. Not going to bring any charges. Put him in a diversion program, then wipe it all off his record, so there's no record for this, quote, great federal judge out that way. So he goes into a diversion program that will allow him to erase his criminal conviction for beating the crap out of his wife. That's the judge's words, Judge Richard Koff says. Allows him to erase his criminal conviction for beating the crap out of his wife in a fancy hotel room while reeking with booze, and his wife is begging, "Help me, please. Please help me. He's beating me. Please help me." That's his wife. Happened before. The guy's in a diversion program. He's anxious to get back on the federal bench. Let me tell you what. Ray Rice apparently is going to get banned from the gridiron. Adrian Peterson, the way it looks, well, don't pass judgment, but if he did beat his kids like that, ought to be banned from football. Mark Fuller, the federal judge in Alabama, should be barred from the federal bench for life. He should be disbarred, should lose his law license. The guy is scum. He's got no practice, no business practicing on the federal bench. So NFL, you crack down on your players, and federal courts, and of course this is a this is something just doesn't happen. Federal judges they cover each other, they hide each other. You never have a federal judge getting impeached on something like this. He should be impeached. He should be kicked off the bench. He should lose his license. He should go to jail for beating up his wife. We shouldn't have this double standard. Football players should face the punishment, and so should federal judges. I'll be right back.